Hi, everybody. It's Lynn Cox here, stress and performance anxiety expert, clinical hypnotherapist. Anyway, I am hopping on today to revisit that amazing book, I believe written back in the 90s by Don Miguel Ruiz, The Four Agreements. So I've posted another video and I'll pop that up today as well too so people can see that. So for those who aren't familiar, it is basically a book on how we can gain more mastery, pardon me, gain more mastery over ourselves and free ourselves from the tyranny of our own minds, because it's typically ourselves who put ourselves through the most hurt and discomfort, and it's always based on our beliefs. So he talks about, four agreements that if you were to be able to do your best to live by these four agreements, you can find yourself in a place where you're more free, happier, more energetic, more robust, have great coping skills, etc. So his second agreement, so the first agreement is be impeccable with your word. And I've already posted about that. Words and languaging, so important to our mental health as well as to how we perceive ourselves. The second agreement that he suggests is very, very important is to not take anything personally. Now, that's an interesting one. So not take anything personally. So in the first agreement, we talk about being impeccable with our own words, with how we're conducting ourselves in the world, and also how we're speaking to ourselves. Second agreement is not to take anything personally, no matter what somebody says to you, does to you. He is saying that true freedom and true mastery is when you are able to understand that any words, opinions, or actions of others actually have nothing to do with you. Now, that's not to be confused with, feeling like you can do whatever you want and never be responsible for yourself. I mean, I think he covers that off in his first agreement, because if you're trying to be impeccable with your word as well as trying to be impeccable with your action, you're unlikely to be doing things that would be harmful to others or yourself. And then if and when you do, because we are humans and we can try, but we're always going to err and have to get back up and try things again. The point is to keep on trying. You're less likely to be kind of wreaking havoc out there in the world if you're putting in a good effort to be impeccable with your word. So don't take anything personally. That can be a tough one, It is challenging for many of us within relationships. Typically, it's within relationships, interpersonal, intimate relationships, so friendships, family members, partners, and our work and business environments, because most of us work with other people. On the work front, a lot of discord that happens in offices and corporate cultures do relate to interpersonal issues, communication issues. Bullying is actually still prevalent in the workplace as it is for children. So most of the discord in the workplace has to do with that. And then interpersonal relationships. These are people who are either your family members, maybe they're in-laws, or people you're in relationship with because you want to be. So it can feel difficult to not take anything personally. That's the end goal. That's the ideal. So when he says that, we're working towards that ideal where you could get to a place where you do understand fully, where it's actually a deeply held belief of yours that nobody's opinion of you but your own should matter to you at all. Obviously, like I said, with agreement number one, and being a responsible human being who is out there trying to do your best and be your best, but to really not take anyone's opinion, their words, or their actions in offense. Know that that's their opinion. Know that that's their lens, their perception that they're seeing you through. But really, truly, what matters at the end of the day is how we feel about ourselves and being able to not accept, he uses the word poison, but not accept poison opinions, not accept those from others. It truly is our own opinions of ourselves that matter the most. And if you are able to be honest with yourself, you'll know. You'll know when, perhaps there's a case that you said something or did something that you're really not proud of, that you regret, you feel some regret for, and you can work to rectify it. But it really is about our own opinions being the only ones that matter to ourselves. I do want to bring up children though, because children, until they hit a certain age, the way that children perceive the world as they're developing is that they are at the center of the world. And it's not because, or the center of the universe, and it's not because they're innately selfish. It's actually how we develop as humans. So, an example of a young person, a young child, 4, 5, 6, 7-year-old, being neglected in the home, being bullied at school. Kids internalize things until they hit a certain age where they're able to separate themselves. So from the perspective of being a child, this don't take anything personally is nearly impossible. And then what happens, and I discussed this in the last video about, what our priorities are, how those get set, we do get programming laid down at a very young age. So with the example of a young child suffering, let's say bullying at school, people calling him or her names and being mean, that child is apt to think, well, this is happening because there's something wrong with me. This is about me, because kids do feel that everything going on around them is about them. And then a set of beliefs can get laid down, that track gets laid down, and that becomes some of the programming that runs. But, and I discuss this all the time, we can, as responsible adults who decide that we want to take control of our emotions, of our psychology, of our belief systems, and of our lives, we can go back, figure out what those old programs are, and work to reprogram them through a variety of methods, therapy, body work, energy healing, hypnotherapy, RTT. You can go back and reprogram and rewire. So agreement number 2, don't take anything personally. It's difficult to apply to children, and the fact of the matter is very likely most of us adopted beliefs that aren't working in our favor as adults because we did take things personally as children, because that is what children do. But as adults, you can change it. And as adults, you can remind yourself of this fact. This is something that if you're able to master or able to make more of a habit in your life, you are far more likely to feel less stress, to feel less anxiety. I mean, performance anxiety, perfect example, in the workplace, needing to do a presentation, something really important coming up, and you are terrified to get up and speak in front of people. You do not want you don't want anybody to think poorly of you, or to be feeling uncomfortable, or to be feeling judged. When you can start to adopt this agreement, don't take anything personally, you are more free to act. You are more free to try things that you want to try. You become more courageous, you become lighter, and you become actually less self-centered. And he says this, and I fully agree with this, but taking things really personally is actually real selfishness when you're an adult. When you're an adult, and you have the cognitive ability to know better, taking things really personally is actually very selfish. You're assuming that this all has to do with you, when in fact, we cannot be responsible for other people's words, actions, or opinions. The only one who truly we're responsible to at the end of the day, in terms of how we feel, is ourselves. Obviously, we can be as good colleagues, loving parents, loving friends, loving family members, etc., etc. However, other people's thoughts, opinions, and words towards us should be, well, I'm saying should here, but really, if you want to be more free, less anxious, less stressed, take control of your life, take control of your emotions, take control of your thoughts, those thoughts that are going around and around and around. You actually can do that. And I love that second agreement. All of his four agreements are very wise, and I'm making a new habit to practice them more often. I mean, rereading this book and then just talking about it in this format is really helpful. Anyway, remember that if you can, don't take anything personally. It may seem challenging at first. It will seem challenging for a while, especially if you're used to operating in that way. Unfortunately, I do think in our culture right now, the victim mentality is being celebrated in ways that I think are harmful and detrimental to our sense of self. And, we really need to have agency over our own mind, our own emotions, our actions, and our words. And so constantly pointing a finger outwards, or that hurt my feeling, and you're not calling me the right name or pronoun, that kind of stuff, that is feeding, I think, a culture of, it's feeding into people acting out as victims, being like victims. And I mean, if you really want to be free, feel powerful, have a good life, feel like you have not pushed yourself, but really done all that you can do with the gifts that you've been given and the inspiration and creativity that you have, getting rid of that fear of what others think of you is absolutely crucial and will definitely make you feel happier. I guarantee it. Anyway, have a great day, and I will talk to you soon.